Hi, it's Matt Giggs, and I am still in Sydney on my little world tour. I've got to Australia, I've met some fantastic people, and just to let you know, this is another person who's going to inspire you today. This is the CEO of Harcourts. Is it New South Wales?
In New South Wales, that's
And
right.
this is Katrina Tarrant, and tell us a little bit about Harcourts, just quickly, just so we get it right.
We are incredibly proud of our brand Harcourts. We are the fastest growing real estate franchise group in Australia and the second largest franchise group in Australia. So we're going after that number one position hard. We are aggressive.
Competitive as well.
We're pretty proud to be number two. We just had our HX conference, 1,000 people there. It's awesome.
So tell me, how many agents work at Harcourts?
Oh, how many agents? So globally, so we're a global company as well. So we have over 900 offices globally, and I think about 10,000 agents.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot, right? That's a lot of real estate people.
There's a lot of real estate people. And we're just in your base here today.
Mm-hmm. You are in my neck of the woods.
Your
this
neck
is
of
called
the woods.
Pxrn, which is just on the fringe of the CBD of Sydney.
And what's CBD? Because when you messaged me where to come and said CBD, I had to Google. I've been Googling a lot of the terminologies in the Australia.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
Jargon,
central
we
business
shouldn't,
district.
Central Business District. So the hub. So a CEO of mine many years ago taught me that all the money is to be made 5Ks within the GPO or the CBD of Sydney. I think that's probably changed these days, but once upon a time that was kind of where all the blue ribbon real estate was in Sydney.
Tell me a little bit about your journey with Harcourts, just so we can get a flavour as to your experience here.
Yeah, I've been with Harcourts for 18 months now as the CEO in New South Wales, and it was really interesting. I actually wrote a paper for my master's degree about how I leverage social media to land my dream job.
So you've done a master's degree to talk about that.
I did.
Well, let's just give us a little flavour of what was in that then, because social media is quite important to agents who are going to be watching this, not just in Australia but in the UK.
Absolutely. So I was account manager. I worked from other major brands in Australia for about 11 years. I've been in real estate for 30 years, but I've been in corporate for about 11 years. And I loved it, but I was a little bit under the radar. One of my sort of things I used to be really proud of is that I did big things in a quiet way. So I was the person behind the scenes, coaching, mentoring businesses. If they were at 15% market share and they wanted to get to 47, let's go, let's do it together. And the officers were really grateful, but I didn't really promote that. I didn't know how to promote it. I was just happy to do the work. But people didn't know I was doing the work in the wider industry. So it niched me at that account manager role, which don't get me wrong, greatest privilege of my life.
Yeah.
Met the most amazing people, forged friendships, was a regional rep. You know, people welcomed me into their hearts, their homes, their lives, their businesses. I had a whole other family out on the road who I'm very proud to say are still really good friends of mine. But they knew I was doing the work, but I guess other networks or, execs didn't really know. And there's two things holding me back: my fear of public speaking, and also my fear of I didn't want to feel like I was a bragger. How do I get my message across?
That's the dilemma a lot of people have about social media and personal branding and putting themselves out there. How did you get over that?
So I just decided, a friend of mine actually, so it's always someone who nudges you, said to me, you should be on this podcast. And it was the Wire podcast, which is Women in Real Estate. Why aren't you there? Why aren't we hearing your voice? Every time I sit down and talk to you, we have the most amazing conversations. You need to share that. So a friend of mine who was interviewed on that podcast said to them, you have to talk to Katrina Tarrant.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So people paying it forward to me, and when we were recording that podcast, I had the most amazing time. I was incredibly nervous. I did prep work. I had cue cards everywhere, in case I lost my place or, I wanted to make sure that I came across professional.
Yeah.
In the break, one of the hosts said, we're getting you an executive job. How do people not know who you are? And that kind of snowballed. Just from that conversation, enormous opportunities opened up for me with advisory roles with the government, different people calling me. It sort of just all snowballed from there.
But I bet there's so many people like you, not so many, because I'm not going to discredit, you've had an amazing journey. I've looked at your back and track record. You've achieved a lot. But like you say, the bragging part keeps a lot of people from just sharing value because they think I'm not sharing value, I'm boasting or I'm...
Boasting, that's the word.
Yeah.
It's like it does feel I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me.
But that's it's in the eyes of the beholder, isn't it? The viewer. I mean, I think as long as you know and I know what we're trying to deliver and what we're trying to achieve. So how did you break through? So you're on the podcast, it went really well, you're really nervous, and public speaking is like 10 times worse.
Yes.
Because there's an audience and it's just you. Tell us about how you overcome the fears.
Yeah, so I guess it was my confidence. It was really interesting with that particular podcast. At the end of the year, they do a recap of their favourite, recordings during the year. And I was just listening to it live. I remember I was sitting at the airport and then they went, "Oh, Katrina Tarrant, she was great." And I'm like, "What?
That was you."
That's me. I don't know, it just lit a fire in me. I thought, I have this voice. I want to do more work in the industry. You know, I was a teenage mum from Campbelltown, which is out in the southwest suburbs of Sydney. I grew up with a single mum and I had a fire in my belly, but really humble beginnings. And I've done every role in real estate, from receptionist, emptying the ashtrays off the desk.
The ashtrays back in the day.
That was part of my role.
Yeah.
To working with amazing
Branded
people.
ashtrays.
Totally. Actually, I don't even think we were that
Were they not? Okay.
branded back then. And I thought, it's my time.
Yeah.
And I just need to speak from my heart. I can put myself out there in a way that it's just me. Some people will lean in, some people won't, and
Absolutely.
that's okay. I just had to reconcile that with myself. And once I did that, I poked my head up above the social media parapet, and here we are. So much so that when I did finish at another brand to take on this role, and every brand that I've worked with has been amazing, they did ask me to disable that. I had to give back my social media account, which just shows you the value in it, and start it again. Yeah.
I think fear is natural. I think it's I mean, there's what are the two biggest fears? Is it falling and public speaking, something like that? It's probably so. You've looked at it right in the eye and you've took it on. And I think that one of my observations from being in Australia is the top 1%. You can see that they've got this look in their eye when they just know that they give value. They share from their heart. They're authentic. I mean, we listened at AREC, which is kind of where we met.
Yes,
Ish.
it was.
And Reese Witherspoon and I think Madison's shortly after that, they both shared a lot about their experiences of personal branding and what impact you have on your content.
Yeah, absolutely. I found Reese was really interesting. She's built this amazing mega media company.
I didn't know.
I knew a little bit. I felt actually for the sisterhood, I should have known more. So shame on me for not knowing more. But about creating content so people, we're women, minority groups, marginalised people, feel seen, heard and respected.
Yeah, sure.
And I thought that really washed over with me and resonated with me. And are we thinking about that? You know, she raised an interesting stat that 72% of all real estate decisions in Australia are made by women, primarily over 55.
Wow.
Now, what do we put out there for those women? Do they feel seen,
No, I don't
heard
think so.
and respected on your social media? I'm not sure if they do. There was a wake-up call even for me in my coaching with our agents.
I find women naturally have the leadership skills that are required today. And I'm obviously alienating myself against some of the audience. I mean, the lady who runs my group back in the UK is a lady called Gemma. And I've encouraged her for 3 years to do podcasts, to go and speak. She's going to speak at hopefully an event at the end of this year. I mean, she's got an abundance of value to share and deliver, but it was just interesting that perhaps, I'm not sure whether it's a female trait, but is there an element where you want to be able to tick all of the boxes rather than, you know what, just share who you are, be who you are, and you'll connect and your tribe will come with you, sort of thing, really?
I think there is a layer of that. I think for me, I guess I can't speak for everyone, I
No,
can just
of
speak for
course.
myself, was definitely imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was good enough to be heard. What I had to realise is that public speaking is a privilege. When I step on stage and there's all these beautiful people smiling back at me, they're not there to take me down, they're there to lean in and to listen to what I have to say. And the minute that I embraced that side of it and let go of being perfect, if you say the wrong word, you just stop and say rather or whatever it is. I'm not trained in this, I'm just genuinely speaking from my heart. I had to try and slow it down. I'm a really fast talking Australian. So that's a challenge for me as well, because I
Your-
want to
your
get it all
energy
out.
and
I
your
want to get it all out as
passion.
quick as possible.
Yeah, I think I can understand that.
So I just steady myself now. I stop and I have a good look at everyone that I'm about to deliver something to, and I just lean in, and it's just an amazing process. And cranky at myself that I held myself back for such a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that that's probably happened for a reason, and it takes certain steps. People have always said to me, I bet you wish you started your businesses a lot earlier, and it's like, I just knew I was ready. Well, I say I knew I was ready. You don't really know you're ready until you start, but I had enough motivation to do it at that moment in time that was the point that helped me to get things off the ground faster. And I think it seems to me like you've starting to snowball with doing conferences and public speaking, and you're in a role where it requires you to be sharing visions and talking about values, which you've got on the wall over here. And tell me a little bit, just to kind of finish off on the kind of agenda kind of stuff, really. How many of the agents what's the swing percentage, male, female in Harcourts? Is it still male majority, or?
In my network, if I speak to New South Wales, yes, it is. A majority of our business owners are still men, but I would say that their male champions have changed. They've been really supportive of my leadership. They did, when there was an announcement that there was a new CEO, a few said, "Oh, who is he?" But they've also witnessed some of the things that I've had to encounter, and potentially they just weren't aware, it wasn't on their radar, because they're not coming up against that in day to day. And they're very protective and respectful of me in my role. Things that are said to me have never been said to a male CEO before, in terms of, I should cut my hair so people take more notice of me or respect me at a higher level, or how you dress, or I don't look like a CEO. All of these really interesting comments.
Yeah, sorry, carry on, go on.
No, it's an interesting... I don't get cranky about it. I kind of lean in, because if people feel that way, they feel that way for a reason. It's gone on, there's been a legacy piece around that. And if, when you research leadership, contemporary leadership to traditional leadership, there is a notion of what that did look like, and that is a changing of the guard.
I think as a guy, and I can probably speak for some of the champions that you've mentioned already, is that we are a bit blissfully ignorant, because we've not walked in the shoes of females in the careers that we're in. And I think there's bias in the male sense. You were the original breadwinners from years ago, and kind of going through that process. But I really see a shift, not just in Australia, but in the UK where I'm from, where female agents are more adaptable, flexible, empathetic, listeners. And if you're engaging in this process of building relationships rather than just transactions, which I know you're people first, doing the right thing, being courageous, fun and laughter.
We nail that one all the time, fun and laughter.
I can imagine. I could see that in AREC. No, but it feels to me it's less hierarchical. It's more inclusive.
Yes.
And I think maybe I'm assuming here, possibly, but I feel females kind of have that awareness to bring that together as well.
I think that's a good point. It's about community. It's bringing the community together and tying it in with our values. We have a credo card, which is our values sit in a little card that you would have in your pocket. I don't often have a pocket in my outfit, but mine's in the back of my phone. So you can turn my phone over and so I carry our values with us every single day. Having them on the wall and carrying them with you is not enough, though.
No.
I have to live and breathe them and make them for my team and for my network, and story tell them.
Yeah.
So that's a really important part for us. With my team, every single week we sit down and we tell a story of how we've seen our values in action, whether it's in our team or in our network.
Yeah.
And that's how we
apply
apply
it.
it.
You bring them to life.
We have to, and that's our litmus test.
Because a lot of values are a big trendy thing, been for 10 years or so, maybe longer, but the wall concept, that's not good enough for them to just be on the wall, is something that I know I've probably been guilty of over the years. And I know that now we're having to remind ourselves, and bringing them through stories is quite a compelling way of people connecting with them, I suppose.
Absolutely, it's that connectivity piece. And even, I'll show my team, in my role, I have to make tough calls. That's part of it. but I have to, and I have levers to pull sometimes. It's there, it could be in the contract, I can do that. But if I do that, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Am I putting people first?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't pass that test for me, I go back to square one and find another solution to that problem. So it tests me as a leader, but my team see me enacting it out in that way, and then I see them do it. And it's really interesting. And
That must be quite inspiring when you see that.
Amazing. And I think that's why it's really important. It's on our team report every week, and we talk about it. And one of my team members is a little cheeky, Stephen, and he kills me when I bring this up. And we work from home on a Friday. He loves his working from home Friday. We do it one day a week. And we have one of our officers, which is a couple of hours away. He was going to do some coaching, and they wanted to change their appointment from a Thursday to a Friday. And he wrote in his report, totally inconvenient because it's my working from home day, but hey, people first, doing the right thing, of course I'll change the appointment.
Love it. What a great example.
Winky emoji.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So the fun and laughter's wrapped up around the whole thing.
We tie it all in together, yeah.
It's a nice, because bringing the words to life is the important piece around values, and certainly that I found, because I think in my early years we'd have words like integrity, and there's no, okay, surely we should be anyway, or
trust.
Yeah, all of those obvious ones which get thrown around. But bringing them into a culture, I think, is one of the biggest things that a leader has to do. And it's a really interesting piece around values. So if you're a self-employed agent or a real estate agent in your own position, you have your own beliefs and values. You have your own things that are really important to you. And I think those are the best and most significant way of making decisions, not just in a team ethic or a culture, but actually customers as well.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes we forget that we can say no. Have you ever found that?
I think we've all found situations where you feel like, I mean, for me, I come from a place of yes. So we work off the credo that sort of the answer's yes, now what's the question?
Yeah.
We can always find a way to say yes, but sometimes it's not the yes that they want.
Yeah.
So we try and look at it that way. It's not necessarily a no. It's like, I can't do that, but I can do this.
Yes. Yes.
So we approach the no in that way.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a really
and there's power in that.
Really good way of putting it, rather than otherwise you could go into a dangerous territory of just going, no, you don't fit, or
well, I think
whatever.
You can always find a way.
Yeah.
And maybe you broaden someone's horizons. I know you feel like that's your pathway forward, but have you considered if we did it this way?
Yeah. Nice. Tell me about AREC. Let's just flip back, if that's okay.
Real estate Christmas.
It's real estate Christmas.
I love it.
And my first time coming over, and it won't be my last. I'm still standing. I've got loads of notes and stuff which I need to just chunk down, which I will do. What were your takeaways?
A couple of things for me. Again, it's the coming together. So for me with AREC, I go up with some of my team members. So it's part of us spending that one-on-one time together in a different setting. It rolls straight into our HX conference for Harcourts. So it's a big... Is that
in the Gold Coast as well?
Straight afterwards.
Oh, right,
so it's
brilliant.
a big springboard for us and, a big week. So there's that opportunity. It's the connections. A lot of my mates... Look, I'm a real estate. Some people love food. I love real estate. All of my mates are up there. So all the squeezy hugs, seeing how well they're doing. We don't get to see each other all the time, but we're always following on socials.
Yeah.
But just to see them in person and charge my battery back in, plug into those people. And then sitting there and watching people get up on that stage who are real estate agents and not public speakers.
No, that's
and tell their beautiful stories.
Yeah, there were some great stories.
So powerful. In that amazing 360-degree stage, which I imagine would be a little bit, you'd be like, do I go here?
Just keep walking around in a circle. But yeah, it was a great, I loved the venue. I loved it was just very well organised, and there was a nice vibe. Like you said, I think there's certain takeaways that I've took, a lot of takeaways actually. I've got 10 just written down, which are like, right, okay. And for me, learning's a massive part of being successful. If you want to achieve more, you have to be prepared to learn more. Learning is taking responsibility, right?
I think it absolutely is. I love pushing myself, continuous improvement, studying. I love, jumping straight into all of that, especially when I do it in a situation where my cohort may not necessarily be real estate agents.
Yeah.
The challenge for me, having been in real estate my whole entire life, is that I feel and think like a real estate agent by default all the time. My lens is real estate. I can't help it. I just default to
But you're aware of that?
I'm very aware of it. So I try and, and I feel sometimes perhaps I have tunnel vision around that.
Yeah.
So by having this cohort of these fascinating, people with these amazing careers, give scenarios or situations to me that I would never have thought of it in that perspective, adds some really interesting layers for me. So learning, not only within the industry, but I think outside of your industry is really powerful as well.
Oh, 100%. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of comparables and you can draw on in terms of business leadership, culture, all the things that I know you're big on with your influence in this particular brand. Tell me a little bit about the future for Harcourts. You're here, you strike me as someone who's here for a reason. Tell me a little bit about the vision perhaps on that side.
Well, I guess I can speak to the vision for Harcourts New South Wales.
Yes.
So when we talk about our brand being the number 2 brand nationally, it doesn't resonate in New South. Resonate's probably the wrong word. It's not reflective in New South Wales. So our footprint as a brand really dominates in other states. Queensland, where we kicked off as a brand only 25 years ago. New South Wales, we have a lot of work to do here. It's been the challenge. Yeah. And to be very frank and candid, it was the job that a lot of people probably didn't want because they saw it as quite a big challenge. Well, I see that as an opportunity to come in, do things differently, double down on that care factor, really understand where we are, the wonderful things that we're doing. We have an amazing network in New South Wales, and how does that foster growth for us? So we're in a growth phase, but not growth for growth's sake. We want the right growth. We want to grow our own people. Has to be sustainable. Yeah. And that could be growing our existing businesses. It doesn't necessarily mean more high front shops.
Because you've been in the role, 18 months?
18 months.
Okay. And I know how difficult it is when perhaps things don't move along at the pace and the speed of which us real estate agents like. So if you're in a leadership role, it becomes even more challenging because if you were doing it, you would do it like this. And how do you combat those frustrations?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Obviously, I have a board that I report to, and I have pressures and obligations like anyone would in my role. But they're really supportive of my strategy. So the first thing I had to do was slow myself down because I run at pace, and I wanted my team to come at the same pace. And it's that, I want to go fast and I want to go fast. So I want to do both at the same time, which can be tricky. Yeah. There were certain things I did have to do quickly that just needed to take place and needed to happen. We needed affirmative action in certain areas. Yeah. Other things I've had to take a step back, understand what that looks like and where it needs to be and what we need to be as a group to be able to sustain that. We've done that work now. We really understand who we are as a state, because I think we were lost, if I'm really, really candid, and what we need to deliver in terms of support, training and growth. I have a really great team that I've built around me as well. We're very connected. We had to gel together. We were a new team, get to know each other. Some people that hadn't worked in corporate.
How did you pull those guys together? So is the vision the part of that?
Making the part of it. So we built out a service blueprint. So one of the first things I wanted to do was just pull it all apart, have a team day, look at what utopia was like and work backwards for that, what we can do now, what our vision is, what's some game changers, what are our game changers for Harcourts New South Wales. But also letting the team know that the greatest satisfaction they'll have is being the team that did it.
Yeah, right.
They will be the team that did it. Yeah. And my role here is to facilitate the next leader of Harcourts New South Wales. My role here is to set everything up for the next CEO.
Yeah. And that's a really abundant way of thinking, and it's a great leadership trait to understand that you aren't here to bring followers up. It's about bringing more leaders through, and to do it through the principle of the vision and the values and things like that. So that's a brilliant share. Go back to your real estate agent days. What did you love the most about it?
So I've been off the tools for quite some time. Just the people, it was a natural thing. For me, I was either going to become a travel agent or a real estate agent. So I moved out of home when I was 17. I went to secretarial school, which most girls, if you didn't finish school, we go to year 12 in Australia. I got to year 11 and I was out of there. So you get sent to secretary school. So I learned to touch, type, and take shorthand and all of those
I'm not
things.
going to quote your age, but I suppose there's some people that are trying to figure it out. And
it's a long time ago, like typing on a typewriter. It was before computers, guys. So which landed me a job in the city, working as a office junior in the photocopy room for an accounting firm. And I decided that I would study real estate. My parents were divorced. My dad did work in property up in Queensland, and I sort of had these two lives. I would spend school holidays up with him in exhibition homes and property development, and probably from the age of 12. Back then, doing a lot of house and land packages, I could work out if a house would fit on a block and chat to the people when Dad was busy. So I think it was in my blood,
it
for
sounds
sure.
like it.
And my mum was a rep, so very interesting, the convergence of their two careers. So my dad was in property, my mum's a single mum, she was a regional rep. I ended up being a regional account manager, doing some of her exact same territory that my mum used to do. So here we have it. So I was studying at TAFE. So back then, to get your real estate agent's license, it was a 3-year course, 2 nights a week. So similar to doing a diploma course. 60 of us started, so 2 classes of 30, 3 of us graduated.
Right.
You didn't need to have your license to be in sales. It was just if you wanted to be a business owner at some point, or be a leader, I guess. So the 3 that graduated were all women. Wow. All the sort of Top Gun sales agents and things like that. They thought, you know what, this coming to TAFE 2 nights a week for 3 years, doesn't interest me anymore. My TAFE teacher, Jeff Burke, had a friend who owned a real estate office in Camden, and I was living out here, catching the train, getting up really early in the morning. The train took forever, all of that kind of stuff. Broke, I was paying $170 a week rent. 17, I shouldn't have even got a lease. I think I used my sister's license to get the lease. Office. I was earning $217 a week, banking on us having lunches at work where there'd be leftover sandwiches, because that's what I ate for dinner. Living on my own in this townhouse at Macquarie Fields in a really kind of rough area, but had a fire in my belly. So my teacher said, this girl, she's doing this, she's doing that, she's on the train, she's young, and she's top of my class. You should give her a job. And so again, power of connection, I landed my first job as a receptionist. And I remember after the interview, John O'Grady, it was LJ Hooker in Camden, and he said, she's sassy. And I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, it wasn't a familiar phrase, I suppose.
Well, there's no internet back then, and I had to ask, is that good or bad? And kind of a mixture of both, I think.
Yes, depending.
And I just loved it. I got that reception desk. It was my control station. I was at the front of that office.
You felt that?
I got to talk to everyone. I asked to go to all the training. I worked 6 days a week. I took on Saturdays so I could get extra money. And then I just worked my way up from there to property management. I ended up, with my first husband, marrying into a real estate family. His parents owned part of a network and 5 offices. So at a very young age, I was very fortunate that I became...
around that.
Well, I was given an office to run because I got my license and my husband didn't. He didn't stay at TAFE. We did meet doing that course. So his parents, made me an office manager, a licensee in charge, and gave me a business to run. Nice. So had to step up in my early 20s and become a leader.
Wow. And that's probably back then, if you don't mind me saying, very young for someone taking responsibility like that.
We're talking like 1993, so it's a long time ago.
I didn't want to say anything.
I will date Stanford quick. 1993, so this was
But
before...
that wasn't like, we've talked about women in a state agency, that's what we have in the UK, and women in real estate over here. That was a young age in a very, very male-dominated industry, which it has obviously become better over the years. So that must have been a huge challenge for you.
It was a massive challenge. Everyone in the office was older than me that I had to manage.
So
they all thought I just got the job because I'm married into,
Oh, so there's another dynamic.
The receptionist done well.
Yeah, for sure.
So there was zero respect. So I learnt really quickly that I would have to earn that respect, and I was happy to do so. I had this appetite to learn and knowledge and connect and give back to the industry at a really young age. But it was a different time. We had sales agents back then. These were men probably in their 50s and I was in my early 20s. And I'd hear them making their calls and they'd be like, "G'day, sweetheart, you're looking beautiful today." That's the kind of...
Oh, wow. We have moved on, haven't we?
Well, yeah, that's what was said.
So how did you give that feedback?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting because even back then, I guess there wasn't a movement around that, but I just knew that we could do better and be better. And how I
So were they your values perhaps at the time?
I think
that you
that's
just thought, this doesn't feel right.
growing
And then you
up with a
act on
strong single mum
Yeah,
and
sure.
having that, I think that fire in my belly a
Yeah.
little bit was sort of like, no, we're going to raise the bar higher in our office. We're going to be more respectful at how we deal with our clients and our team members at large. But I had to earn that. So I earned that through continuous improvement. I went to everything I could, every conference, every training session, connected with people, mentors, anyone that would take the time to spend time with me. I was all in. Clients, at a very young age, one of my clients was the head planner for one of Sydney's largest councils, Parramatta Council. They're working on an affordable housing study and they wanted an industry consultant. She said, I think you should do it. I'm like, I don't know how to... What am I going to consult on an affordable housing study? She said, you'll figure it out. She said, I'm going to put you on that panel and you'll do the work. I couldn't research with the internet. I had to go and connect with people and ask, what are the challenges around affordable housing? What does this look like? And we had to develop a policy and co-author a paper. Yeah. I didn't finish school. But I just said yes. I just jumped in.
Which is what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Just say yes and then figure it out. There's a quote around that somewhere, I'm sure.
Take the leap. Yeah.
Take that leap. So that was a massive challenge, and your resilience and your ability to turn your hand into things that you hadn't got experience in and go and learn. I think I'm able to say, because it's not so easy for you to say, I can see as one of your real strengths, and obviously that's coming through your leadership of the challenge that you've got ahead of you, but the opportunity. How do you find people? How do you attract people into your brand, into your team, into your culture? What's your main strategy, would you say?
Yeah, and we do a lot of work on that, and I do that work personally. I think it's important for me as a leader to make those phone calls. Yesterday I did 2 hours of power prospecting. I sit and do prospecting calls. I prospect just like agents do. Hi, I'm like, I'm really sorry to barge in on your day. It's Kat Tarrant here from Harcourts. Agents really like to talk to you. That's really where I think agents for the most part are abundant people.
They are.
And they make prospecting calls, so they're quite generous to me when
they know where it's coming from.
They're quite gracious. But it is about showing what we do differently.
So when you say, sorry, just to qualify that, so you're making prospecting calls as in you've heard or seen and, well, this person looks like someone who would be good for us. My job's to go and find out if there's a fit, if they are looking, if they're interested, rather than you're waiting for them to come to your brand.
Absolutely. So of course we do all of our branding campaigns, all of our nudges, social media nudges, EDMs. When I send EDMs, I'm never selling anything. I just want to celebrate what we're doing, our people
first. Tell us what
first.
an EDM is for our
jargon.
That's okay.
I hate jargon.
No, that's okay. No, just it's good for me to understand it anyway.
So electronic direct marketing. So when you bulk emailing to people on your database. But I don't sell. I just want to tell the stories of what we're doing. How do we unpack our brand and tell the stories of our brand? So just out there, so then they'll be getting a nudge from me. Not too much. We don't want to spam people.
Yeah.
Following people on their social media, celebrating their success, and then just picking up the phone and having a chat. They may be very happy where they are, not looking to make a change. They may feel unsupported. It's normally a couple of things where people do change brands or offices. So twofold, because I'm looking for businesses that may like to come and be part of our Harcourts community, but equally sales agents that may be looking to come and work with one of our offices or work with a team. So understanding what's important to them. Yeah. Normally it's support, value, or culture. There's those three pillars that there's a miss for them, a misalignment for whatever reason. Yeah. And equally for us, we won't be the brand for everyone either. My style of leadership won't be for everyone.
And that's a good thing, right? It's to know that this is important, that you're not trying to attract everyone. Yeah. And you're lasering in on the kind of people that you're really clear on who will fit for and how you'll fit with them.
Absolutely. And I've done a lot of work around those personas. Like, who are we and who do we want to attract to our brand? And we really need to understand that as part of our growth strategy. So when we're having those conversations, they're much more meaningful. We're talking to the right people as well. The other thing is I give without ever expecting anything in return. Mm-hmm. One of the officers that we brought on last year, I'd met that beautiful lady, dear lady, probably 9 years ago when I worked for another brand. We forged a friendship And every time she had a challenge in her business, irrespective of where I worked, she reached out, I would help. Without ever, I would just be there, drop whatever I could, and provide a layer of support. I never once asked for the business.
No. I think there's a massive, there's like a shift of energy when you go into that place of trying to get something rather than understanding the principle around giving.
Yeah.
I think it's a powerful shift that a lot of people don't quite understand. That's not being disrespectful, but I can see it and feel it when people talk about prospecting and they're not sure about why they need, they're not confident in doing it. It's because they're going about it with the mindset of trying to get what they can instead of, if I said to you, right, can you ring up 100 people today and just give them something of value? The change in the perception of making those calls goes. And it comes back down to that lady from 9 years ago who's now part of the team.
Yes, she is part of Harcourts, Better and Blue,
So
and having a wonderful
you never stop
time.
attracting, you never stop giving, and then you will find the right people to connect with, and it'll end up being a win-win situation.
When it's the right time for them. You know, she made the call to me and said, I want to come and join you. You know, I never asked that question. It was completely her decision. It's all of those moments. I mean, working in corporate is an absolute passion project for me. It's the biggest privilege of my life. And I had a phone call when I was at AREC, or just before AREC actually, for a gentleman that I worked with another brand. And we got in there and we worked really hard with his business around a digital strategy. I might have mentioned this story to you. And he's a country person. He won't mind me repeating this, I don't think. And he said, you know, he had this much market share and he wanted this much market share. What are we going to do? And I said, well, we're going to double down on digital. Can I build you a digital strategy? Let's look at your revenue. What are we going to invest in it? And he looked at me and he said, Kat, exactly like this. I think it's all bullshit.
I've heard that a few times.
Apparently, apologies for the swearing.
We're
and
all
he
right,
said,
don't worry.
He goes, but I trust you.
Wow.
And
So he's going against his core kind of thought process, immediate thought process. He's overriding that because of his trust.
He said, I trust you. He said, so we'll do it. And this was his money. We're going to be investing in this campaign. He got that 47% market share.
Oh,
he got that in probably 12 months. And that beautiful man rang me, coming up to retirement age, rang me just before AREC. And I said, look, I'm in a meeting. He said, truly, if you just have 5 minutes, I'd love to have a conversation. I said, yeah, I'll step out. You know, is everything okay? I thought perhaps something had happened with his family.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I just want you to know that we've sold our business. We're going to retire. And he said, truly, from the bottom of my heart, what we were able to sell our business for comes down to you. And I said, and he said, no, Ruth and I need you to know this. And if we can ever pay that back, if we can ever pay that back to you, we will. So please know you've changed the work you've done has changed our retirement.
But that's how powerful giving, serving, solutions. That's a really amazing story.
Yeah.
Well done.
And that's what we do in corporate, because I think sometimes people wonder, you know, those who can do, those who can't teach. We all were agents. A lot of people ask me.
That's like, I mean, I've had some great messages recently, and I never underestimate what we can do in just one conversation. There's a quote, a guy that I used to work with, he says, you know, you're only one conversation away from a solution. You know, I really like that, because even if it's a customer in a predicament or a client that I've coached or mentored, there's a way out of it.
Oh, there always is. And sometimes it's having those tough conversations. I will say, may I have a candid conversation with you?
That's a nice opener.
Because pride is something that I want to, to all of us, we all have it. People bury their head in the sand, and there's things going on. And sometimes with my business owners who I work with, could be nothing to do with work. It could be outside of work.
How much would you say is, often half of
more than sometimes, but that's impacting. And I have a bit of a helicopter view, but you can feel it. Like if you know them and you care and adore them, and you think, I have to dive a little deeper here, not to pry, but because I care. And how can we double down on our support and care here? Because I think something's going on. Maybe I can pick up some slack in their business or put some additional support in their business so we can deal with what's going on over here.
Nice.
So that's where we start with, may I have this candid conversation? Because I'm like, is something not right? And, there's been conversations over the years I've had in corporate where financial pressure is a huge one, where there's tax bills, this and that. Their wives don't even know.
But we in estate agency and real estate, our customers are like your team or your business owners.
They are our team, yeah.
And I would imagine you've probably had difficult conversations like that with customers where you've had to kind of bring yourself to a level with them where you can truly understand their position in order to help them to move, accept an offer, change their strategy, whatever it needs to be. But they're, intrinsically they're fixed on certain things, and there's a lot more difficult conversations needed today.
Absolutely, absolutely, especially in the market that we've been through in Sydney
Agreed.
as well. And just expectations, because we've really had an artificial boom.
We did have an artificial boom.
Long-term data.
It was strange.
It was strange and odd, and it was all fun at the time, but it's not the normal. So understanding and accepting that, if we look at long-term gains in the Sydney market over 30 years, you always do well. Yeah. I was asked to speak in an investment night for one of my offices, and they just rang me that morning and said, "Oh, hey, you're chatting." And I'm like, "Oh, great." They didn't tell me that the chief economist at the Westpac Bank was speaking after me. So of course I'm very positive. And what is Harcourts temperature check? Well, we are comfortable and confident because real estate's a long-term game.
Yes, it is.
If you have to transact for an unfortunate situation within maybe a 12-month period, 18-month period, look, that could be tough.
Yeah, it's probably not the right time. I love that. Sorry, I'm stepping into something here because I think a lot of people start a business with a short-term mindset. And I think it's the same in real estate, same in investing, and in relationships in general. It's a long game.
Has to be. And it's also an evolution piece, I think, in business. And the leader I was back in 1993 and the person I am today, of course I'm different.
Yeah.
I always think of myself, people...
You shed layers, don't you?
Well,
and then you build new ones.
I sort of think about, those old colouring in books, also showing my age, one-dimensional, black and white. Every encounter I have colours me in a little bit more and brings me to life,
Yeah.
right up to the crescendo at the end of my life.
Yeah.
Changes me each and every day, every moment.
I completely resonate with that as a guy that, you always, I suppose that's probably one of my strengths and weaknesses is I'm always trying to improve. And sometimes I don't always stop and go, you're doing a good job. I'm always probably looking for the next thing and to get better. But just coming back out of that for a second, interest rates went up by 0.25%. So quick switch away from culture and business. But
12 in a row. We've had 12 in a row.
Only 12 in a row, eh? So we just touched on the market. We talked about difficult conversations. What do you see the next year, 2 years being like in this area that you're in? Mm-hmm. And what are the behaviours that are required from an agent's perspective? Yeah,
so really interesting. I think Australians, maybe broadly, but Australians, having a roof over your head is really important. So I've worked through some really challenging markets in my 30 years, and what I've noticed in that period is that Australians will tighten their belts to keep their home. So the first thing they'll look at is their discretionary spending and cut back. And I can say I live in the inner city. One of the favourite things I can do on a weekend is just go for a big, lovely walk. I think you explore different alleyways and things, and it's felt quiet. So I really feel for those businesses where you don't have to go there.
Like hospitality and things like that.
All of that, who were also hit with COVID as well. I can see it in our little local coffee shop here. People are making the coffee at home. Like, all that adds up. So that's definitely happening. We can see that in the marketplace. Interesting note, and I'm not an economist, or qualified to give business advice, I should say, but only 30% of Australians have mortgages. So to try and curb inflation, we're putting a lot of pressure on 30%.
That's an interesting statistic.
There's a lot of people, as my millennial daughter would call them, boomers, the hoarders of wealth. That my mother-in-law and things like that, retirees, they're actually really benefiting from getting really strong returns on their money at the moment.
In the bank, savings,
and they're spending it. Like Nanny Carol, I just got I got my birthday card with $500 in her cash. I'm like, I think I only got $100 last year.
So the coffee's on you, right?
So I'm benefiting from that inflation because she's obviously feeling. Shout out to Nanny Carol, we love her. She's feeling flushed at the moment. So there's spending happening.
They're putting it back in that
the
sense.
Economy, But
that's a small demographic.
So really tricky. So it is hurting, absolutely. And talking about the mortgage cliff. Interestingly, I don't think that will have as much impact as what
I was
people
going to say, do
thought.
you feel like that's perhaps a little bit, there's quite a lot of heat going on that particular narrative?
Absolutely. In the media, I think quietly it's happening if I talk to some of our officers. But again, many Australians who have been on variable home loan rates now since these 12 interest rates, they're paying their home loans. We can see that there are, I heard a stat last night, there are increased numbers to people calling debt helplines and things like that. So I think Australians are trying to manage their debts, consolidate their debts, although they did kind of pool their cash and resources during COVID, so there was that buffer. I do believe that our banks are taking a different policy approach to maybe the hardline approaches when I went through some of those really challenging times. I've unfortunately sold a lot of mortgagee in possession properties. It's incredibly emotional. I do think banks are looking at freezing repayments and different options, or putting the power back into the homeowner's hands. I would say if you can sell your own home, if you're in that position, hold on to that power. Don't let pride get in the way until to a point where you don't have any choice. Because at the end of the day, that will always be your best option. What agents should do, to your point though, and we started talking about this to our agents, I would say 12 months ago from the first interest rate, they're going to double down their care.
Totally.
Their clients are feeling different at the moment. They're feeling nervous.
What reassurances and what advice can we give people?
What kind of conversations are we having? What's our tone in those conversations? Yes, we have to deliver bad news, but how are we doing that in a way to help them progress their plans? That is the best option for them right now. But we need to understand the emotions of that.
I think that's such an amazing share, because and it comes back to what we talked about 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago about giving and doing it from a place of it being the right thing. So I look at some of the scenarios that are in the market, so people that have got probably likely to treble maybe their rates of interest. Similar to UK, I'd say the UK's calmed itself back down.
Okay, interesting.
So we're back under 4% for some lending for mortgages. But there's an element where if you're selling and buying in a marketplace, where the difference is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
The gap.
Changeover, we used to call it when you're buying a car. They'd never tell you how much your new car was. Oh, your changeover.
The changeover's that.
Yeah.
And I think it's that part of the dynamic that I think a lot of people, because what do people really want to know at the moment is, what has my house gone down in price? Has it? I don't.
Interesting. So the Sydney market at the last 3 months, we've seen an uptick, and so it's performing well. I should put a caveat around that though, because that's aggregated data. So there's two parts of it. So it is stock with such record low supply. So we all did Year 7 economics, supply and demand. But equally, some of the premium or prestige markets are really forging ahead. So, because there are still some marketplaces that are doing it really tough at the moment.
Okay.
So we've got pockets. So it is patchy, I would say, working in different areas. So just to sort of put that caveat around that. So again, we'll take the green shoots. Certainly looking for them, and I'm promising my board that we definitely have green shoots. But I know from our own data, and I'm looking at it live, our stock levels, that's really challenging, because people, they don't know where they're going to go. And to that changeover point, one of the challenges is, once upon a time you'd say, hey, you're transacting in the same market. Once you're in the market, it doesn't really matter. And that is a very true point. But at the moment, what people's borrowing capacity was, say 12 months ago, I just saw a stat of Josh Vegan, actually, to give him credit to it. Their borrowing capacity was $1,080,000. It's now 660.
Right.
Now, in the marketplace that I live in, that doesn't get you, if you wanted to go up a run in the ladder, you can't do it for 660,000. And many marketplaces are the same. So there's nowhere to go. So that's another reason people, because often people, you say, this is a great market to trade up, and I think people took advantage of that when properties were declining. But they can't get the money to even trade up. Even if they've got a good job and they've got wages growth, it's that borrowing capacity. If you go $1,080,000 to 660,000, that's a big difference.
So agents need to be more considerate and understanding of the climate for individual needs and situations. And they need to come at it with a bit more probably understanding and empathy and so on and so forth. Where do you see opportunities for real estate agents and estate agents today in this particular climate?
I think the passive buyers. And what I mean by that is people say that there's only hot and cold.
Yeah.
I believe there's warm right down in the
Yeah.
middle. And, you know, again, if I use myself as an example, empty nester.
Yeah.
Live in a terrace house in the inner city that I bought 12 years ago, primarily to get in this marketplace before, you know, coming from southwest Sydney, before perhaps I wouldn't be able to afford to live in where I wanted to live. Wasn't the dream home. It was just bought to own. It had the attributes that I wanted. It was a really good location. We've got great infrastructure being built. Take advantage of all of that. Settled in, met our neighbours, still here.
Yeah.
But it's a 1901 terrace house. We've renovated, but they have constraints and challenges with them and, you know, upkeep. I've been in the real estate market for 30 years. I was very, very fortunate to buy my first home at 19. So we're in a position where interest rates potentially don't affect us that much. Are you marketing to me? If you nudged me, now I'm not on
You're a nudgeable, aren't you?
I'm not on the portals. I need to look at my agents' listings. I'm not actively on the portals. But if someone used the right technology, which exists out there, and nudged me and popped a listing on my social media feed that...
Is it CoreLogic?
Well, there's wonderful products around there. I've worked with different, you know, we're just looking at this AI.
So they bring AI bring. We were just going to get onto AI, but yeah, but that brings you.
And I think, ooh, apartment at Woolloomooloo. Might be a time in my life to go there. I'm not looking for that. Though.
Yeah.
That would make me, if you nudged me and gave me the right and kept nudging me enough, that could get my house on the market.
Yeah.
And I have no
I think
actual current.
It's a really good point.
There's got to be plenty of people that feel
Well,
that
in
way.
each market, there's percentages, and there's percentages of people where it's a real benefit, and then there's percentages where it's not the right time.
Yeah.
And then there's the people where we need to explore.
Yeah.
And we need to help encourage, especially if it could work for them. So I think that's a really good point. Yeah. Just touched on AI before we finish.
Mm-hmm. I love digital. I love AI. Anything around that, I want to know about it. I'm in. I want it first to use it. I jumped on ChatGPT very early on, released it to my team. Sometimes I come back and go, "You didn't write that."
I think I'm looking at posts now and I'm going, "Is that a robot? Is that a robot?"
And that's the hard thing, because sometimes knowing your flavour and how you write and things like that, I think it's great to speed up the process.
Agreed.
Low-level copywriting, first drafts, planting, you know, that sort of light bulb moment in your head. Really happy to use it for that. I got up on stage at our Kickstart this year and I got the robot to write my speech live, and then I delivered it to the network.
Oh, wow.
Just to show the speed.
To show how it could be used.
I'm like, hang on a minute, write it in the tone of me, and here it is. So loving all of that and what that looks like. In terms of that AI, really understanding, having a deeper understanding of our clients. What are their behaviours? What are their patterns? You know, we're scraping all that information. What are they doing? It's all out there now. At the beginning, we're all a little bit worried. Look, Google's listening to you at home. And, you know, the last thing I did when I closed the door of my house this morning was say, "Hey, Google, play calming dog music."
Yeah. And then off you go.
You know,
do you see it as I think as an element where agents who have got the personality and the tenacity to go and help people can do more of that. Yes. With the benefit of AI.
Absolutely. What I would say,
rather than just the information sharers, people that are probably a little bit reliant on just passing stuff across, you know? So people that perhaps don't go and prospect like we talked about earlier, don't go and have difficult conversations. But I get the feeling that it's going to enable the top agents to really leverage themselves and their strengths without getting bogged down with some of the other stuff.
Absolutely. I think scale is where it comes important, AI. But what I would say is that you can automate processes.
Yeah, for sure.
But you don't automate relationships.
You can't automate.
So don't hide behind AI. Don't hide behind text messages. Communicate with people how they want to be communicated with. You know, I have a 27-year-old son. I could ring him 30 times in a day. I will send him a text message and he'll reply to me. That's how he wants to be communicated during the day. So respect that.
My mum would be nodding her head if she watches
this.
It.
All mums are like, why doesn't it talk to us? We love it. Just kidding. So understanding that, but understanding how we can tap into the benefits of that to maybe understand our clients better, how we build those deeper personas, use it to then build the deeper relationships, but certainly don't hide behind it, would be what I would say. So it's certainly sped up efficiencies within real estate businesses. If I look back 30 years ago, end of month in property management used to take us all week. Manual ledgers, add it up, type all the statements, you'd be 5 cents out, it would take you 4 days to find where that 5 cents hadn't balanced. You know what I mean? So
there'll be a lot of people understanding that,
There's been an evolution, computerised property management, and I famously said at a major network as a young principal when they brought me into head office to show me some new technology.
Yeah.
In 1999, they said, we present to you the internet. And I'm like, don't be ridiculous. Mark my words. No one will ever sell a house on the internet.
And here we are.
So I learnt from that. I felt like the guy that quit the Beatles.
Yeah.
Dumb choice.
No, but it's a good one though, because now you've gone almost like the other way.
Everything. I want to know everything. All the technology. My team were like, we're all over everything.
Yeah.
What does this do? I take every meeting, irrespective. We have wonderful business partners at Harcourts, but I want to know what's out there. I need to understand, does that do the same thing? Is it doing something differently? If my officers ask me about it, am I across it?
Amazing. This has been brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome to Pyrmont.
I'm loving it. And I want to just say thank you for giving up your time. You didn't have to do that. So thank you so much. There's been so much value. I think I could stay here and carry on chatting, if I'm being brutally honest, because I think you're a real leader and someone who I think will inspire a lot of people out there. And you make leadership sound achievable by using the tools that you've used over the years and the way in which you've done it. So I think just want to congratulate you on that, because I didn't really know you in any great depth.
Well, we ran into each other at AREC.
Yes. And I feel like I'm walking away from Australia or flying home from Australia with so many great connections, and hopefully you'll be another one.
Hopefully I can come visit.
Come visit,
Love
100%.
to. No, it's my absolute privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.